Hello, and thank you for having me. My name is Malik Gilani. I am the founding executive director of Silk Road Rising, and I am very thrilled to be here with you today to share some stories that have shaped my understanding of leadership. Before we get started, I want to point to you the presentation notes that has a brief outline of the stories I'll be sharing and a lesson that I have drawn from each of those stories. In our conversation after the presentation, I would love to learn from you what you gather from these stories and how together we can grow. It was 1100 years ago that the Zoroastrian community in Iran had to move. Iran was now conquered, and these fire worshippers were asked to either leave or change their religion. They wanted to leave. A delegation of priests from the Zoroastrian community went to India in search of a new land. Indians gave them the name Parsis. Parsi means Persian or Iranian. And this image shows us that meeting that takes place between the delegation of the Zoroastrian priests with King Jardana. He is the king of a state in India called Gujarat. Now think about it. The king does not speak Persian, and our priests do not speak Gujarati. So they choose to communicate in symbols. When the king receives this delegation and realizes that they are here seeking land for their community, the king gives them a bowl of milk. The implication is just like this milk covers the whole bowl, and there's no space left in here, we have no space for your community. The Zoroastrian priests understand what the king is saying, and one of the priests takes the gold ring off of his finger and puts it in the bowl of milk and returns it back to the king. And his point is just as this gold enriches this bowl, we will enrich your country. And just as the circumference of the bend of this ring limits how much space it takes, we will likewise stay to ourselves and not spread in rest of India. Now while the king was happy that they would like to enrich his land, he was not happy that they wanted to remain to themselves. So he returns the bowl of milk back to the Zoroastrian priests. The Parsis then take sugar and put it in the milk and mix it in and return it back to the king. The message? Just like the sugar has sweetened the milk, we will sweeten your country. And just like every grain of sugar has been melted away in this milk, we will melt away among you. And it was that sealed the deal, and the king invited the Parsis to come to India. One lesson that I have drawn from this story is that leadership is enriching the movement. Leadership is not being part of the movement, it is enriching the movement, making the movement stronger and better. A strategy for doing that is being more inclusive, is being open to new ideas, open to new ways of doing work, open to new leadership, to including new people in the movement. For example, there were social right movements that in their different phases were actually eliminating and pushing out communities that just did not agree with them on everything. It was opening up to diversity of thought that enriched the movement. I also think of enriching the movement and leadership as having the leadership to enrich your mind, being open to new ways of thinking and new ways of doing things. Let me talk to you about another priest. This priest in the 6th century goes from China to Japan. He is a Buddhist priest, and Buddhists really have renounced everything in the world. But as a gift, he brings paper with him to Japan. Japan has not seen paper until now. This is the first time that paper has come to Japan. And what do the Japanese do with it? Well, paper is rare. So they integrate it in their faith based practice. They start folding this paper into origami, into small creatures that are used in the Shinto practice. Now, origami, this art of practicing paper, was invented in Japan as a result of this paper. Paper enriched their religious practices. It took well over 1,000 years before this gentleman came along. His name is Surendra Rao. In 1893, he is living in India and under the British Raj, but his mind is open. And he writes a book called Geometrical Exercises in Paper Folding. Geometrical Exercises in Paper Folding. This is the first time that the concept of applying mathematics to paper folding has been applied. Until now, people are just folding paper as they wish, as they wish. Rao introduces the idea of mathematical concepts into how you fold paper and the new shapes that this paper can be folded into. And one of the things we know about knowledge is it's about not the existence of information, but it's about the application of knowledge and information. It takes yet another 100 years before this idea of paper folding gets extended into other problems, to solve other problems. And one of them is saving lives in car crashes. The invention of the airbag was conceptualized in 1950s, but it wasn't until 1970s that it was implemented. Today, as a result of the airbags in the cars, we're saving about 2,500 lives a year in the United States. The idea of folding paper, applying math, using that to solve an entirely different problem is also seen in the design of stents. Stents are devices that are put in your heart arteries to allow flow of blood to your heart. This stent surgery is now done in about 500,000 patients every year in the United States and Europe. Invented in 1964 and implemented for the first time in 1986. This thing that is saving hundreds and thousands of lives owes its very existence to paper, to the art of folding paper, to applying a mathematical concept to the folding of paper. The leadership principle for us is that leadership is synthesizing disparate disciplines. I would say that emotionally, we should consider everything that appears to be disparate as a facet of a single truth, meaning that truth has many faces. We've all heard the story of the three blind men who are each touching an elephant. One holds the tail and thinks it's like a rope. One holds the trunk, the other touches the leg. They're all looking at the truth, but they're looking at a single facet of truth. Leadership is synthesizing this many, many, many facets of truth. Now, truth also comes in oneness. And this is a personal concept for me that has played a big role in my life. I'm a Muslim American, and the core tenet of Islam is oneness of God. And out of the idea of oneness of God comes this idea that there is only one God, no one gave birth to God, and God gave birth to no one. It's a monogamous religion. But there are many people who follow this God. Muslims are spread across the globe. Over 1 billion of us follow the same interpretation of God. Some of us are black, some are brown, some are yellow. What unites us is this idea of ummah, which means community, ummah, one community. And this is what I mean about having many facets to truth, but it's one truth. Many different people, but it's one community. And so leadership, according to the concept of Tawheed, leadership is being unified with those we serve, being unified in our identity, in our views, in the way that we approach our work, is being one with our belief, being one with those whom we serve. Yes, there are multiple approaches, there are multiple partners in our journey, but it's one vision, one mission. Because I've been in the not for profit sector for a long time, I've come to realize that there are a lot of people who believe that they are serving those who have less than they do, or they're serving those who are at risk. Whatever term you call it, there is this creating of a distance from those who are being served and the leader, or putting up a wall between the leader and those who are being served. And I strongly disagree with that. I think that oneness concept requires being unified with those we serve to see ourselves in their story. Even in the face of calamity, and there are going to be many in our line of work, we need to be having single minded focus to do the work that we want to do. This focus is manifest in a young woman. Her name is Malala Yousafzai, born in Pakistan, the country that I come from. Malala was shot by the Taliban when she was 15 years old. Her crime? She was speaking on behalf of young girls to have a right to be educated, the right to learn. Her father was a schoolmaster, and Malala was living in an environment that was taken over by the Taliban. And the Taliban was anti learning, anti knowledge, anti women's rights. And this young woman, at the tender age of 15, was giving speeches and saying, no, girls have a right to knowledge. So, to teach her a lesson, the Taliban sent someone to shoot her. And they did. And by the grace of God, she survived that shot. And in fact, she went on to win the Nobel Peace Prize at the age of 17. Malala teaches us that leadership is the beating heart of a courageous belief. A courageous belief. Leadership is being courageous. It is being truthful to ourselves, truthful about our shortcomings, truthful about our insecurities, truthful about our lack of confidence and our low self esteem. Listen, the work we do in the not for profit sector is often derided by those who don't believe in the work that we do. We're told things like, this doesn't make a difference, or you're preaching to the choir, or you're not going to be able to solve this crisis. Every day, there is this barrage of rage and anger against us because we believe that we can have impact. It is courageous for us to do the work we do under the storm of negativity. That belief can never be shaken that the work we get up every morning to do matters, that those we serve are us, that we are part of one community. Maulana Rumi is born in 1207 in Afghanistan. Today he is the number one selling poet in the United States. He has written 70,000 verses of poetry. He is the father of the Sufi movement. Sufism is an interpretation of Islam. It is a mystical interpretation of Islam. You will see whirling dervishes who are whirling in their love of God. Rumi says, "Raise your words, not your voice. It is rain that grows flowers, not thunder." So when we are being attacked, our desire sometimes is to attack back. But really, it's rain, not thunder, that solves the problem, that feeds the child, that gives hope to someone else. We cannot devolve. Leadership is about evolving, it's not about devolving. I want to close by talking about a favorite son of Illinois, born not far from here, Ernest Hemingway, born in 1899 in Oak Park, Illinois. Is considered the most influential writer of the 20th century. He wrote such books as The Old Man and the Sea, A Farewell to Arms, The Sun Also Rises, and For Whom the Bell Tolls. He also won a Nobel Prize for Literature. Ernest writes, "There is nothing noble in being superior to your fellow men. True nobility is being superior to your former self." And I think that is the bottom line of all leadership concepts, is being better to yourself. That war that we're fighting is not anywhere else, it's in here. When we become competitive to see who's better than who, we have lost leadership. We have lost nobility. We have lost the praise that we owe to our Maker and to the world that has given us space. It is being better than we were yesterday. It is constantly seeking and synthesizing knowledge and information and coming up with new ways of solving problems. That's what leadership is. I want to now open up the floor to talk about what these stories mean to you. But before we sit down, I want to just tell you a little bit about Silk Road Rising. I am the co-founder with my husband, Jamil Corey. We are an arts and media organization. We create live theater, we create digital theater, we create student learning programs and community engagement programs. Our tagline is Unleash Curiosity. What is curiosity? For me, to be curious is to question your sincerely held beliefs. It is to admit you may be wrong. It is to aspire to be a better human being. So let's now talk about how we could be better human beings based on some of the stories that I shared with you. And I would very much like to hear some of your stories. Thank you for having me.